Let us start off a new section, and in this section we will be covering two other important domains which make up the quality of the population. First, the second one being health, and the third one being unemployment. So under health, we are going to see the kind of efforts that are made to improvise on the different health parameters. Then we see three new concepts, that is infant mortality rate IMR, then we see the birth rate, that is BR, followed by DR, that is death rate. After we see these subtopics, we will head on to unemployment. Like I've mentioned, what exactly unemployment is: the lack of jobs outside and the lack of job opportunities as a whole. Under unemployment, we will see three types, that is seasonal unemployment, disguised unemployment, and educated unemployment. After we see the types, we will see the kind of consequences that this scenario called unemployment has on the other sectors. Then we will also see the employment numbers and the scenarios that are there in the primary, secondary, and the tertiary sectors. So let us get on with this section. Starting with health. So when you're a very healthy person, you will understand your main potential, right? And your capability as to how you can work, how you can study, and how basically you can function itself. And that is one aspect of a healthy person. Another aspect of a healthy person is the ability, the capability that person has to fight a certain kind of illness. And you should also know, if that person is very unhealthy, they will not be able to work to their utmost potential, and hence there is always a decrease in the overall growth of the entire company or the organization. So if at all a person is giving their 100% as an employee to the organization, there will be definitely a certain percentage they are contributing to the growth of that organization. If they are very unhealthy, they will not be able to realize their potential, right? So you should understand that health is a very important aspect to realize one's capacity, one's well-being and capability. So our national policy, that is our government policy when it comes to health, aims at improving the accessibility of healthcare, which means you and I as citizens of our country will have to be, it should be easy for us to access to any hospital or any doctor. That should be an easy phenomenon. Family welfare and nutritional service, that we are getting good nutritional food for our well-being, followed by special focus on the underprivileged. Who exactly are the underprivileged? Those people who have no access to any kind of food or education or health medical centers or anything like that. The poor people, the SC/ST backward classes, so these are the underprivileged persons, and with a special focus on these people, you will be able to get them at par with the general population. So hence our national policy aims at bringing about these 4 points here. So over the years, you should understand India has done a tremendous job, not improving manpower at all the 3 sectors. So with this, there has been a result, right? There has to be a result, a very progressive result. So let us see those in numbers. I will be briefly reading it out to you. So there has been an increased life expectancy to over 68.3 years in 2016. So the average person who is able to live in India a very dignified life goes up to 68.3 years. The infant mortality rate, that is IMR, has come down from 147 in 1951 to 34 in 2016. We are going to soon be defining what exactly IMR is. Crude birth rates have dropped to 20.4 and death rates have dropped to 6.4. Increase in life expectancy and improvement in childcare are useful in assessing the future progress of our country. Because you should know, the nation's children are the future of our nation, right? So ensuring their education, ensuring their health means you are planning for the future, for a very, very ultimatum future. So you should plan really well. Increase increase in the longevity of life is an indicator of good quality of life marked by self confidence. So now I will be briefly describing as to what exactly infant mortality rate is, what exactly birth rate is, and what exactly death rate is. So infant mortality rate is when a child below the age of 1 year dies. So that is IMR. Birth rate is the number of babies that are born for every 1,000 people during a particular period of time. What exactly is death rate? Is the corollary of birth rate, that is the number of people per 1,000 numbers who die during a particular period of time. Now let us go to the last domain of our discussion, unemployment. So unemployment can be briefly explained to you in a scenario as to when a person is ready to work, right? He wants to go out to the world and he is ready to work, but there is absolutely no job that he can find. So that exactly is unemployment. So in India, the workforce usually is from the age of 15 years to 59 years. Usually, not just in India, generally people retire by the age of 60 years. So, and people tend to start working from the age of 15 years. So, from 15 to 59, it is called the workforce. In India, we have unemployment scenarios both in the rural and urban areas, but it differs in both these areas. In case of rural areas, you have two kinds of unemployment, that is seasonal unemployment and disguised unemployment. That these two terms we will be discussing in the future class. And in urban areas, they have something called as educated unemployment. This can be briefly explained when you look at the term itself, that that person is educated but still is not able to find a job. So that is exactly what educated unemployment is. Let's head on to seasonal unemployment. So this, as the term says, this unemployment is seasonal in nature, which means it's not permanent, but it is very temporary and occurs at regular intervals, right? So people who are usually very dependent upon agriculture face this kind of an unemployment scenario. So some in a year, there are some seasons which are very busy, that is sowing season is very busy, harvesting is busy, weeding and the threshing seasons. So these basic seasons are very busy, but all this entire process happens in a span of 4 to 5 months. So what exactly is happening in this other 7 months of the year? Those 7 months, the person is left unemployed and they have to wait for the next year's cycle for sowing and harvesting and etc. Then you have the disguised unemployment. What exactly is disguised unemployment? Let us see. In this kind of employment, you see that the people are working. You see that they are working and doing their jobs, but they are not working up to their full potential and capacity. Right? So if the person can give around 100% to if that kind of job requires 10% of their work, that person is putting in 100%. So there's a kind of a mismatch here. So this usually happens among family members that are engaged in agricultural activity. For example, suppose that kind of agricultural activity requires 5 people to do the work, but 8 people are ultimately employed into the same work. So the 3 people are extra. So even if you remove the 3 people from working, there is not going to be a big difference. The production and the profits of whatever is being earned is going to be the same. So these 3 people are not contributing to anything and ultimately they are unemployed itself. Now let us see some one kind of unemployment that happens in the urban areas. So many youth with matriculation, graduation and post-graduation degrees are not able to find jobs. So there is always this kind of a paradoxy that happens in the job market. There will be in certain sectors there will be lots of jobs, but in certain sectors there will be no jobs at all. So this paradoxy has resulted in educated unemployment. So now let us briefly see the different consequences of unemployment. First, a human resource is not being used, so that leads to wastage. And when the human resource or the human's main potential is not being used, it leads to a liability. We tend to think like, why is that person even here, why can't we use him for a better cause, right? So then it ultimately becomes a liability. If we are using that human resource for economic development, or even if they're using it for their self development, it becomes an asset. But when there is a kind of wastage of that resource, it becomes a liability. And naturally, when you're an unemployed person, you have no aspirations, there are no goals to your life, so there is naturally a feeling of hopelessness. And if they are the sole bread earner in the family, that is, take a family of four, where the mother and the father are ill throughout the year, they are not feeling well, they cannot perform functionally. The kids have to take care of the parents, but imagine if the kids are not able to find jobs, they will not have enough money to support their family, right? So there is a great societal waste. As a whole in the society, there is a big waste. And it increases economic overload. How does it increase economic overload? Suppose there are 100 people that is required for one kind of job. And there are only 30 people that are employed because they have the necessary skill and the education. The 70 people cannot get employed because they don't have that skill and education, or they're not finding that kind of opportunity to get into that kind of company. So the 30 people have to do the same work that the 100 people are doing, right? So naturally it increases the kind of economic overload on that person, and ultimately stress, and stress leads to more issues in the body, and ultimately it goes to ill health itself. And the dependence of the unemployed person, the dependence of this person on the people who are working automatically increases, and this is a very very negative sign. The quality of life also as a whole has decreased, and the quality of the society also has been made, there's an impact on the quality of society also. There is a general decline in its health status and rising withdrawal from the school system. So increase in the unemployment rate indicates the economy is not growing, but it is depressing. And if people cannot be used as a human resource, they will automatically become a liability to the society rather than proving as to be an asset. Right? In India, the unemployment rate is low, which means a large number of people represented with low income and productivity are counted as employed. So even if the person is getting very low wages, and if the if their productivity is also very less, they're still counted as employed, and hence unemployment rate is counted as very low. But there is a lot of disguised and the seasonal employment that works in India, right? Because India is a country with a majority of people employed in the agricultural sector, and agricultural sector simply means seasonal unemployment and disguised unemployment, and hence they're not able to figure out their ultimate potential and their capacity to get the best of what they can function like, right? So this is one of the problems. Poor people tend to engage in any activity irrespective of its earning potential, keeping them on a bare subsistence level. So, like I mentioned earlier, let us discuss the kinds of employment scenarios in the three sectors, that is agriculture, that is primary sector, secondary sector and tertiary sector. In the agriculture sector, majority, around 70% of the people that are employed in India belong to this sector. And because there is something called disguised unemployment in this sector, there has been a decline in the dependence on population of agriculture. And the large number of surplus labor that is present in agriculture has moved on to the other two sectors. So let us see the kind of employment scenario in the secondary sector. In the secondary sector, you have small scale manufacturing industries which are very, very labor absorbing. Then you have the tertiary sector, and under tertiary sectors there are new technologies that are growing. For example, from the time COVID has hit us, biotechnology is growing. It's growing rapidly, right? And also digitalization and information computer technologies are rapidly rising. Because of COVID, we cannot have social contact. Hence, everything is moved on to the computers and online education. So, everything is improving. So, this is the kind of employment scenario tertiary sector has, and it has a large scope because it is growing. Currently, this is one sector which is growing. You will see that in the next class.